Big news from Burkina Faso. France, through the European Union, has now sent a representative to ask Capt.Ibrahim Traore to let them return and continue mining gold. They're promising a win-win deal this time. Why? Because their economy is shaking. Cars made in France are now stuck in yards. Nobody is buying. Turns out much of their market was never Europe, but Africa. And now Africa is waking up. But unlike some African countries still tied to old agreements, Burkina Faso is standing firm. Captain Traore has said no. No more exploitation. No more one-sided deals. He's choosing the people first, not pressure from the West. While others are still hesitating, Burkina Faso is leading a bold new path. One where Africa owns its resources and shapes its future. This is more than news. It's a message to the world. Africa is not for sale.
Europe is broke.
Don't deceive yourself. Why? It's simple. Europe is broke. Europe is broke. That's the reason.
And they're trying to control Africa like they did in the past, where they built their wealth of Africa. They took our minerals, they told Africans that they cannot use their minerals, they told Africans that these minerals are worthless, and they took them and they created a wealthy nation out of Africa's minerals. And today, they're doing the same thing with our energy. Europe tells us that we cannot use coal, we cannot use gas. Yet guess who's the biggest exporter of coal and gas? Europe. They tell us not to use it. They tell us to switch off our lights. They tell us to focus on renewable energy, which they themselves are shutting down, by the way, because it's not working out for them. And they basically take our minerals. Trucks every single day leave South Africa to take coal to Europe, to take gas to Europe. Leaders in South Africa that simply do not care for South African people. They took loans, 8.5 billion from Europe, to build renewable energy. Meanwhile, Europe itself is shutting down their renewable energy. What are they thinking? This is money in the hand. I can quickly take this money and I can run with that money. But for the future of Africa, we are being damaged because of their decisions. How do you take money to build renewables when renewables are failing all over Europe, and they continue to take our coal, they continue to take our gas, and you're taking their money? How do you think they make that money? It's the same trick they used back in the day on our people. And today we're seeing it happen again because of the leaders that cannot think. We have the power as Africa. We have the energy. Through energy, you can build anything. Factories, industries, employment. What are you going to do by you taking a loan for renewables that's not going to actually give you the right output of power and still have to pay back Europe? Europe is essentially colonizing Africa again.
Truth is, it's a million miles from the reality of EU-Africa trade policy as it exists now. Because our economic relations with Africa are simply a continuation of European colonialism, perpetuating exploitation by other means. Africa trades more with Europe than it does with itself. It's portrayed as a poor continent, but actually it's the richest.
In a historic turn of events, the French government has reportedly collapsed following a successful vote of no confidence, the first since 1962. The news has sparked strong reactions across West Africa, where many see it as a long overdue shift in global power dynamics. For decades, France maintained a dominant presence in several West African nations, such as Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Senegal, and Ghana, extracting valuable natural resources, especially gold. However, rising awareness and resistance across the Sahel region have made it increasingly difficult for foreign powers to operate as they once did. A French minister recently suggested that President Macron's own actions opened the eyes of Africans, leading to growing demands for sovereignty and resource control. As a result, many French companies that once relied on African resources are now experiencing severe shortages. Some have begun to shut down operations altogether, contributing to rising unemployment in France. Across West Africa, there is a strong and unified message. The era of exploitation is over. Africans are reclaiming control of their resources, and they are determined.
We're not on a begging mission, even as we are in great need as a continent and all that. That should go to demonstrate that Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals. Even in the multilateral institutions, we want to be treated as equals. And if our equity is at a low ebb, there must be ways in which that can be addressed. To us, this is very important. Our sovereignty is one of the things that we hold on dearly to. And we demonstrated that very clearly to both President Zelensky and to President Putin when it came to this issue. Even as there were suggestions that, yes, we can donate this, we can donate that, we said, we want you to release these grains and fertilizers to the world market so that the world can trade in these commodities and other issues we can handle in a different way. I wanted to make that point so that it should be understood where Africa has evolved up to. We want to be key players on the world stage, want to be key players even in the financial markets and in the MDBs. Now, these are the positive things. I do, Mr. President Macron, want us to address another issue which to us is a bit of a negative. You will have heard President Sisi talking about the 100 billion that was promised in Paris. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday as well also spoke about it at the dinner. Now, there is that issue that a number of the commitments that have been made have not really been fully lived up to. But before I get into details, let me immediately say that we recognize the many initiatives that have been put on the table, and a number of countries here have done so. Germany has gone out of the way to put a number of initiatives, and the US has also done a number of things. But there have been times when we felt like we were beggars. I played a key role as chair of the African Union during the COVID period. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability, when we felt we needed access to vaccines, and the Northern Hemisphere countries had bought all the vaccines in the world, and they were hogging them. And they didn't want to release them at the time when we needed them most. And we felt like we were begging. And at times it felt like they would just be droppings from the table, that yes, we will give you that and that. And let me tell you something that generated a lot of resentment. We resented that, and it got worse when we said we want to manufacture our own vaccines. And when we went to the WTO, there was a lot of resistance, enormous resistance. And we kept saying, what is more important, life or profits by your big pharmaceutical companies? And that too, I must tell you now, generated and deepened that disappointment and resentment on our part, because we felt like life in the Northern Hemisphere is much more important than life in the global South. And these are issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that we are all seated here like this, because we've got to get to the heart of these matters and address them. Now, I come to promises that have been made. And Chancellor Scholz was saying, we've got to walk the talk. Yes, we want to see the talk being walked. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday said at the dinner, $100 billion was promised per year. And he was saying, I've never seen that. And many of us will testify that that $100 billion has never really been made available. And this should stand out as something that needs to be addressed. Because sometimes we sit at conferences like this and say, yes, we'll make this available, and we believe you. We believe you, but now the tire must hit the tar. We must now see action flowing from that. Now, I want to then talk about something very practical. President Sassou Nguesso raised it yesterday. He said he would be happy if flowing from this summit, we do something very practical on the infrastructure side. Having said that 600 million people in Africa do not have electricity, and yet we've got all the resources to generate electricity, particularly the mighty Congo River, and that there have been plans to build a number of power stations that will generate, in my calculation, up to 70,000 megawatts. And he said, and I want to speak in support of this proposal, that to prove that these summits are not summits where we just talk, flowing from the Paris COP as well as others, let us now put money on the table and collectively say we are going to address this mega project. A mega project which will in the end generate electricity for up to 12, 15 African countries all at one go.
Welcome back, family. And now today something special is happening. Something special is happening. And now France is on their knees. They're begging African countries, mostly the countries from the West Africa, which have now become hard. They have become so hardest to French emperors, to US emperors. And now they're on their knees. All that they are saying is that they want to make a deal. They want to have a dialogue with the leaders of these countries so that they can make things to go maybe in a beneficiary of both parties. They want to make peace. They want to be given another opportunity or another chance to come and have authority to African resources. They want to have a say to these countries because they have been there many years ago. Emmanuel Macron once assaulted or insulted African leaders in AU, saying that all African leaders are not grateful for what France did to them. They stood with them many years ago. They fight corruption. They fight terrorism in all these African countries. But today, the African leaders are not ready to appreciate all they did towards them.
He also insulted all Africans.
I think they forgot to say thank you to us. It's not a big deal. It will come with time.
There is a part that caught my attention where he talked about ingratitude.
Gratitude, I am well aware, is a non-transmissible disease to humans.
He is human. Our ingratitude is not transmissible to him. This is how this gentleman sees Africa, sees Africans. We are not human. In his eyes, I think that if he is not an atheist and he prays, every morning when he wakes up and prays, he should also pray to the Africans.
So, killing millions of Africans, destroying their properties, exploiting and looting their minerals, rewriting their history, telling them that you are the one who discovered them, telling them that everything that they are doing today, they never had an idea of everything that they have today, but you are the one who are the reason or the cause of everything that the African are having today. That is the achievement that you want to be gratituded. So today, after they have lost all their power, all their dominance in Africa, and now Africans have turned against them. And now their people too have turned against them. And all that they are demanding is something that at this time is too late, and they cannot do or restore everything that their citizens are demanding. It all started in Africa, where now the Africans started to fight against them. They started to resist everything that they introduced. They started and decided that enough is enough, and African countries are going to stand by itself. Now they're facing a nightmare. Now in these countries there's no peace. They have no authority over their people. They cannot control their country. They cannot afford to pay the official governments. Why are they facing all this? Because they have lost the source where they have been getting everything that make them to do everything or to pay all of their bills. They have been using African resources to benefit themselves, to be able to pay their bills, to be able to do everything, not knowing that in Africa, the place that they are going to exploit and take everything that they're building up their countries, there are some people there who are suffering. There are children there who are dying every day because of hunger, because of medical issues, because of poverty, because of... There are people in Africa today who are still traumatized, and this is all caused by the great empires. So why today, after they have seen that now they have their empires have been destroyed, they are not able to stand and maybe have the power over their people, they want a dialogue with Africa. They want peace talk with Africans. They want to do business in 50-50. All these years that they have been coming out to Africa to do all that they have been doing, they never know. They never knew if there's something that is called a dialogue. They never knew about peace. They never knew anything that they can do just to satisfy even Africa to feel like, or to feel their resources and to have to be satisfied on everything that they are sitting on top of it. These empires were built through the blood of some innocent souls. And even the scripture says that any empire that was risen and was built through the death or through the blood of some people, they were built up very fast, and they will too collapse very fast. And now we are saying that this is the God's time of Africa. The God of the black people is now doing something today. The God of Africa is now fighting the battle that is making African to be seen in a higher throne, to be seen as a king, because there are some leaders who have been raised in Africa, and all that they are doing, they're ready to face anything that comes on their way. They're ready to make everything, or to restore everything that was taken out of them. They're ready to fight the great empires. They're ready to challenge the great empires, and now the world is watching. The world is so surprised towards Africa. The world is trembling from what Africa is doing. Let me not tell you something today. All that is happening today in France, because France has lost their power towards their people. They don't want their leaders. They want their leaders to resign. In coming few days, the citizens and the child who are being born in these countries like France and China, they will need answers. They will need answers why all is happening today. Why all this today is happening. And they will come to know that all that their fathers and their kingdoms and their emperors did to some people in Africa and many other countries or continents where they invaded, they created a great massacres there. They created a lot of problems there. Today we are still having countries like Sudan, like Congo, the great countries with the great richness of the soil, but they can't sit down and do anything with their countries. They can't sit in their countries. They can't settle in their countries. They're just hovering around in Africa, in some people's countries as refugees, just because of the great empires. When they were coming to invade these countries, they never cared about all that is happening towards these people. When they were bombing African countries in their screens, their citizens were told that that was justice that was being done in those countries. When they did everything that they did towards Africa, they lied to their people that they are just trying to make protection towards African countries. And now today Africa is awake. The African youths know everything. They know the history of Africa. They know what their forefathers passed through. They know what their ancestors died trying to fight for. They know how struggle their forefathers tried to do just to make sure that they unite Africa. They make African continent peaceful and independent. But because of doing that, it cost their life. Today, the history still speaks about them because they did their best, and that is why that's why African a new generation are coming out. They are coming up and they're speaking boldly. They're doing all that their forefathers were trying to do, just to make sure that they liberate their countries, they liberate their continent, they restore their dignity, they make Africa great as it was intended. So it is too late. It is too late for all that is being asked by the emperors. The empires are asking for peace talk, dialogue, which is very late. At the time they will be finished by handling their problems, then I think Africa will be finding a way on how to become the first world countries. It is possible, because all that was done was enough, and Africans paid enough debt. So it is time now everyone to carry his or her own cross, but not depending or crying to another one. We have our own problems. Why do we have to care about some people's problems? As a black African in Africa, in diaspora, in America, wherever you are watching from, tell me, what do you think about these issues? I know you know everything that is happening today across the globe, what the great empires are facing today. Their kingdoms are failing, they're collapsing very fast, and they have nothing to do with it. They have no any other way to save them. They have no any other option to do to save the problem that are consuming them day and night. Therefore, I'll celebrate because they deserved. Until next time, we come and do the same. We are watching. The black community is watching. Africans are watching. And this is just the beginning, because we expect more. Let's tell me to have the comment section. If the first time, kindly subscribe so as to be updated to every news that comes in or comes out. May you be peaceful wherever you're watching from. I love you and I appreciate your support. Thank you very much and be blessed.